federal judge who blocked the newest version of the North Carolina's voter identification law cited the state's sordid history of racial discrimination and voter suppression as she ordered officials to enforce the law in 2020. U.S. District Court Judge Loretta Biggs' decision was released Tuesday and prevents North Carolina from requiring voters to provide identification starting in 2020. President and founder of the National Action Network, Reverend Al Sharpton, is joining us today from New York to share his reaction. Reverend Sharpton, what are your thoughts on the overall stability of the voting system?
I think that the voting system's lack of stability, particularly in various states around the country, is of deep concern, which is why the Judge Biggs' decision was such a powerful decision, because not only did she deny the state moving forward before the lawsuit between the state NAACP and in this area is decided, she went out of her way to list the sordid history, as you said, of racism and discrimination and of voter suppression in the state of North Carolina. And she went all the way back to slavery, into Jim Crow, into now, and said that the fact that they had been given, the state legislators, given the racial dynamics of what happens when voter ID and other measures are applied, there's the racial difference in how it impacts blacks more than others. So they did this in full light of knowing it was discriminatory. So it was, to me, something that was very, very encouraging for those of us that are in the civil rights and voting rights community, particularly when you think of it coming out January 1st, which was the day that Abraham Lincoln made the Emancipation Proclamation stick. And here we are in 2020, and that was in 1863, and we still need people like a Lincoln or like a Biggs to affirm our rights.
Do you feel that minorities suffer as it relates to voting rights?
I think that the court decision begins to really cite in writing the data that shows that blacks are disproportionately the ones that don't have the photo government ID. Many of us have no reason to get a passport because they don't travel. Some do not use state license, driver's license. So these things, if they have a disproportionate impact, it is by in and of itself racist and in and of itself bigoted. You are supposed to be encouraging people to be civically involved, not try and put impediments there.
You know, if we were to ask any particular person why they did not vote, there would be a plethora of reasons or thoughts. What can we do overall to be more effective, to be more sound, to be more stable, to be more impactful in making sure that we have a stable voting system?
I think that when we tell people that everything that they do in their life, the sidewalk they walk in, whether it is allowed these amount of feet or those amount of feet, whether it is this high off the curb or not, all that is decided by politics. Zoning for whether they can have a business, zoning for residents, all that's politics. People don't understand the schools they go to is decided by the political figures in that community. So you are really, by not voting, letting other people just run your life with no input. I think that sometimes we are too grandiose and give the removed version or tell people how our forefathers died, and they did. We've got to make it live real to them and say, why would you send your kid to school and not make sure that the right school board members are there? Why would you try to have a business and you can't even get zoned? Why would you try to have a house if you don't know what the property values are going to be voted on one way or another, or the regulators at the bank? You got to make it real in their lives, and then I think that we would be able to energize more people. And I don't care who they vote for. If they vote for a Republican or Democrat, they should vote. Now, I have my preference, I have my leanings, But I'd rather see someone vote that disagrees with me than not vote at all.
Reverend Al Sharpton, thank you so much for your perspective today. It was a great conversation with you today. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm very proud to be there. When I was a young activist, I used to wear a black onyx ring, and I'm glad to be on a black onyx stage.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.